MBFFL fans question if French beau even liked Whitney. Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, My Big Fat Fabulous Life. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before starting the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and give this video a like up. Last season, My Big Fat Fabulous Life fans were introduced to Whitney Thor's new gent. Though the two never met in person, he carried her through season 9. This was exactly what she needed after being heartbroken by Chase. Yet, as the show prepares to return, fans are questioning if Frenchie genuinely liked Whitney. Read on to find out some of their legitimate theories. Whitney Thor finds long-distance love. Having struck out a few times, Whitney probably just wanted someone to comfort her. She had just broken off her engagement to Chase. The two had never lived together, which was a huge red flag. Then she learned he had been unfaithful, plus the infidelity resulted in a pregnancy, so she was not in the best headspace. Finally, she met a Frenchman whilst taking French lessons online. They clicked and started a long-distance romance. The pandemic did make it hard for them to connect in person, but so did her past with Chase. As season 9 came to a close, it seemed that Whitney was finally off to meet her man. Yet in the previews for the new season, her ex-boyfriend, Lenny Alahat, is back. There is virtually no mention of Frenchie, and Whitney appears highly invested in Lenny and his happenings. Now, for some reason, fans of the series are beginning to question many variables. One of them is whether or not the Frenchman even liked Whitney to begin with. True love or false hopes? A Reddit thread was started where a Redditor posed a theory about Whitney Thor and the Frenchman. They believe that maybe he did initially like her. Then producers saw it as a boyfriend opportunity and jumped on it, but it just became too much. It appeared like he was not that into her when she was laying it on too thick. Was there a chance he was paid to play along? Others chimed in with their thoughts. It appears that the fans think Whitney Thor might be the problem in the end. What are your thoughts? Do you think Frenchie actually liked Whitney, or was it all for show? Let us know and watch the season premiere of MBFFL on August 9 on TLC. Whitney Thor's life had always been an open book, documented in vivid detail on her reality show, My Big Fat Fabulous Life. Fans followed her through every twist and turn, from her struggles with polycystic ovary syndrome, PCOS, to her adventures in dance and fitness. When Whitney announced that she had met a new man from France, fans were excited but also skeptical. Whitney's new beau, Henry, was a charming Frenchman she had met online. Their relationship had blossomed over the months through video calls and messages, and Whitney's excitement was palpable. She shared snippets of their virtual dates and sweet messages on social media, building anticipation for the moment they would finally meet in person. The day finally came when Henry flew to the United States to spend time with Whitney. The cameras were rolling as she waited at the airport, her heart pounding with excitement. When Henry walked through the arrival gates, Whitney rushed into his arms, the long-distance romance finally becoming a reality. Despite the initial excitement, fans quickly noticed that something seemed off. As Whitney and Henry started spending time together, their interaction seemed awkward and forced. Henry appeared distant and unenthusiastic, a stark contrast to the passionate and engaged partner Whitney had described. On their first day out together, they visited a local cafe. Whitney, brimming with excitement, chatted animatedly about her favorite places and things to do in the city. Henry, however, responded with short, uninterested answers, his eyes often wandering around the cafe. "So what do you think of Greensboro?" Whitney asked eagerly, hoping to spark some enthusiasm. Henry shrugged, glancing at his phone. "It's nice." Fans watching the show began to flood social media with their observations. Is it just me, or does Henry seem completely uninterested in Whitney? One fan tweeted, "He doesn't even seem like he wants to be there." Another commented. As the days went on, more red flags emerged. Whitney planned a series of activities to show Henry the best of her hometown, but his lackluster responses continued to dampen her spirits. Whether they were visiting a museum, going for a hike, or simply having dinner, Henry seemed detached and disinterested. One particularly telling moment occurred during a dance class Whitney had organized. Dance was her passion, and she was excited to share it with Henry. As the music started and Whitney began to dance, Henry stood off to the side, his arms crossed, barely moving. "Come on, Henry, join me," Whitney encouraged, trying to pull him onto the dance floor. Henry reluctantly joined in, but moved with no enthusiasm, glancing at his watch periodically. Whitney's face fell, the disappointment clear in her eyes. "Is it just me, or does Henry look like he's being forced to dance?" A fan commented on the show's Instagram page. "This is painful to watch," another fan added. Whitney's friends quickly picked up on the tension and began to voice their concerns. Heather, her best friend, and Buddy, her longtime friend and ex-boyfriend, both noticed Henry's disinterest and worried about how it was affecting Whitney. One evening, they decided to confront Whitney about their concerns. They gathered at her house, where the atmosphere was tense. "Whitney, we need to talk about Henry," Heather began gently. "We're worried about you." Whitney sighed, sensing where the conversation was headed. "What do you mean?" "Henry doesn't seem like he's really into this," Buddy added. "He's distant and unenthusiastic. It's like he's just going through the motions." Whitney's eyes welled up with tears. "I know it seems that way, but maybe he's just overwhelmed. It's a big adjustment for him." Heather put a comforting hand on Whitney's shoulder. "We just want you to be happy. If something doesn't feel right, you need to address it." Whitney knew her friends were right. She needed to have an honest conversation with Henry about their relationship. That evening, she invited him over for dinner, determined to address the growing concerns. As they sat down to eat, Whitney took a deep breath. "Henry, I need to talk to you about something important." Henry looked up from his plate, a hint of apprehension in his eyes. "What is it, Whitney?" "I've noticed that you've been distant and unenthusiastic since you got here," Whitney began, trying to keep her voice steady. "I need to know if you're really happy in this relationship." Henry sighed, putting down his fork. "Whitney, I care about you, but I have to be honest. I've been feeling overwhelmed since I got here. Everything is so different, and I'm struggling to adjust." Whitney's heart sank. "I understand that it's a big change, but I need to know if you're committed to making this work." Henry looked down, unable to meet her gaze. "I don't know, Whitney. I'm not sure if I'm ready for this." The conversation with Henry left Whitney feeling heartbroken and uncertain about their future. She spent the next few days reflecting on their relationship and trying to decide what to do next. The tension between them continued to grow, and it became increasingly clear that something needed to change. One evening, Whitney's father, Glenn, paid her a visit. He had always been a source of wisdom and support, and Whitney needed his guidance now more than ever. "Dad, I don't know what to do," Whitney confessed, tears streaming down her face. "Henry isn't happy, and I don't know if we can make this work." Glenn hugged his daughter tightly. "Whitney, sometimes we have to face the hard truth. If Henry isn't fully committed, you deserve better. You deserve someone who loves and supports you wholeheartedly." Whitney nodded, knowing her father was right. "I just wanted this to work so badly." "I know, sweetheart," Glenn said softly, "but you have to take care of yourself and make the best decision for your happiness." With a heavy heart, Whitney knew she needed to make a decision about her relationship with Henry. She couldn't continue in a relationship where she felt unsupported and unloved. It was time to have one final conversation and decide the future of their relationship. Whitney invited Henry to meet her at a quiet park, where they could talk openly without any distractions. As they sat on a bench, Whitney took a deep breath and began to speak. "Henry, I've been doing a lot of thinking," Whitney said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "I care about you deeply, but I can't ignore the fact that you're not happy here. I think it's best if we part ways." Henry looked at her, his expression pained. "I understand, Whitney. I'm sorry I couldn't be what you needed." Whitney reached out and took his hand. "It's not about blame. We gave it our best shot, but sometimes things just don't work out. I hope you find happiness, Henry." Henry nodded, tears in his eyes. "I wish you all the best, Whitney. You deserve to be happy too." The breakup with Henry was difficult, but Whitney knew it was the right decision. She focused on healing and taking care of herself, leaning on her friends and family for support. She also continued to share her journey with her fans, who had been a constant source of encouragement. "Thank you all for your support during this difficult time," Whitney posted on social media. Breakups are never easy, but I'm focusing on moving forward and finding happiness within myself.